You are listening to the New Jersey Business Podcast with your friend, host, all-around good guy, Paul Valverde. Now, on to the show.
What's shaking New Jersey? Thank you very much for joining us today for another episode. I have the pleasure to have with me Andrea Pass, owner of Andrea Pass Public Relations. Andrea, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me today. Would you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Well, thank you, Paul, so much for having me today. It is such a pleasure to be here because I am a true Jersey girl through and through. So my whole life has been in New Jersey, grew up in New Jersey, went to college in New Jersey, got married in New Jersey, live in the town I grew up in, and my kids went to the schools that I went to. So I'm Jersey through and through. And I started my business, Andrea Pass Public Relations, a number of years ago to be able to really service anyone around the country for their public relations needs, to be able to secure press coverage, to give them that earned media awareness, meaning coverage in the press that shows that someone else is talking about you instead of you talking about you. And so I've worked with companies large and small, and today I love working with entrepreneurs, small businesses, authors, consumer products, and much, much more to spread the word using public relations, using the press to increase brand awareness and to drive sales.
Andrea, I am so glad that you are a New Jersey girl. I lived most of my life in New Jersey myself, and obviously this podcast focuses on showcasing business owners that are from, operate in, or service New Jersey. So I'm excited about that, and I'm very eager to know, how is it that you got into the public relations field?
It's so interesting because growing up, your life takes you in different directions. And for some reason, I ended up being the publicity chair of all of these clubs in high school. And in high school, I thought I'd be a journalist. And I actually wrote a column for a local weekly newspaper called In the High School. And every week I had a story about a club or an administrator or a teacher or a sports team from Fair Lawn High School, which is where I grew up. And I said, okay, I'm going to be a journalist. But all along, I was writing the press releases. I was calling the newspapers. I was making sure people heard about whatever it was I was involved in, whether it was the school musical or the drama club or other things. And off I go to college, Glassboro State College at the time, which is now called Rowan University, also in New Jersey. And I studied radio, TV, film because I was going to be a broadcast journalist. And I took a few PR classes, but even though I was the director of the news director at WGLS FM, the voice of Gloucester County, I was always doing publicity. I was always the PR chair for the sorority or the student government or other clubs I was in. And when I got out of college, and there I went straight to CBS. I was going to be the next Dan Rather. And there was a freeze in the broadcast area. So I took a job at Woman's Day magazine. I was doing advertising, trafficking, and layout until the freeze got lifted. And I got a job doing public relations for the CBS radio division, and eventually interviewed to be one of Dan Rather's assistants. And I realized I don't want to be anyone's assistant. It wasn't what I wanted. And then I had an opportunity to work on the news desk at the CBS Evening News, nights and weekends. And my wonderful parents were very supportive. They were going to help me financially because it paid practically nothing. And that's when I realized I had that aha moment that I always loved publicity. I loved public relations. And with public relations, I can also have a white picket fence. I wanted to live in the suburbs. I wanted a home and a spouse and a family and volunteerism and friends and all of that. And public relations gave me that opportunity. So PR, it was, it is, and it always will be. So I've always loved publicizing clients in a wide range of industries. And you know, Paul, what they say, if you love what you do, you've never worked a day in your life. And I love public relations.
You know, what do you feel are the most common misconception about public relations?
That's a fabulous question because public relations is often the misunderstood element of the marketing mix. Because so many people, when they think of public relations, they think about a red carpet and the Kardashians or a celebrity. And public relations is for everyone, no matter what the size of your business. If you're selling a product or you have a book or you're a coach or you do health or wellness, whatever it is, you should be in the press. And the misconception is that the press only covers huge companies with huge dollar signs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the truth. The truth is that working with a reputable public relations professional, you will be in the media. You will get coverage. You will get that acknowledgement. And new audiences will learn about you because the media is talking about you. So the misconception is that it costs a fortune.
Yeah.
No, you would spend more money on a 4-page glossy ad in a magazine than you would probably pay hiring a public relations person for 4 to 6 months. So public relations is more affordable because you are not paying for that coverage. It's not like advertising. Advertising, you pay for the coverage. Public relations, it's earned coverage. So the misconceptions are many, but it's time today for your listeners and viewers to add public relations to the marketing mix to get that extra content that happens when you are interviewed by a newspaper, a magazine, a blog, a TV station, radio station, podcast, videocast. It all leads you to new touch points for potential clients.
I'm happy you made that distinction between paid advertisement and what you accomplish through public relations. And I also appreciate you saying that there isn't a business that is too small to benefit from public relations. Talk to other business owners which feel that that's out of their realm, that's out of their reach. That's something that maybe they'll do once their business grows, and they actually do not realize how much public relations could help their business grow. Will you be able to maybe share a little bit about that so that our audience, people who may have had that mindset that maybe public relations is not something that is for me, will you please kind of inform them of how public relations could benefit them and benefit their business as well?
It's so important for public relations to be in that mix because you're reaching different audiences. So, excuse me. So whether you are being interviewed for a newspaper, argument's sake, okay, and people are reading that article and they say, oh, wow, I'd like to engage and hire that person for their health and wellness service. Or I'd like to buy that new piece of cookware. Or that looks like a book that's interesting and I'd like to purchase that book. So understanding that every audience can be a potential client, customer, buyer is where public relations comes into the mix. And I think that taking the time when you're doing your annual budgets to think about, how am I spreading the word? Okay, how am I getting the word out there about my business? And as a solopreneur myself, I consider myself a client of my own. So here I am today talking to New Jersey Business Podcast about public relations. But this is an example of spreading the word about a business using the press because you are the press. So I think that no matter what the size of your company, no matter how long you're in business, it doesn't matter because you've got to spread the word in different methods. And we are all absorbing content all day long. I mean, Nielsen had reported that the average American spends at least 11 hours a day absorbing content.
Wow.
And let's think about it. I mean, I know in the evening, I might be watching a TV show and I'm scrolling on my phone.
Yeah.
And I'm skimming through the newspaper or a magazine and I'm scrolling on my phone.
Yeah.
Or I'm listening to a podcast in the background and I'm scrolling, reading an article. So we are multitasking and we are starved for knowledge and information. So we're always looking for new content. And so whether you're a small business, a medium-sized business, or a huge business, you can be covered in the press to reach new audiences. So today's the day to start. It's never too late. Even if you have a book that came out a year ago or a product that you launched a year ago, audiences don't know that. Don't get fixated on a date. Get fixated on growing your business and using the press to do so.
Andrea, if someone is listening to us right now, and I know they are, and they want to reach out to you, what would be the process you walk them through from the first point of contact until they become a full-fledged client?
Well, it's first getting to know someone, because we all know that you do business with people you know, like, and trust. So you've got to get to know someone. It's very rare that an initial phone call results in, okay, I'm hiring you today, let's start tomorrow. Okay, that has happened to me a few times over the past few years, which I've been lucky to do, but I understand. Let's get to know each other.
Mm-hmm.
Let me understand your business, your product, your service, your book, whatever it is you are spreading, what information you want to spread out there. And let's come up with angles on telling that story. But I say to people that have a product or a book, you must, and I repeat in capital letters, must be willing to give away products and books to reviewers. Because if you're not willing to give them, meaning it is not returned, that product or book, they can't review it. How can someone write about something if they don't have the product to write about? So make sure you are willing and able to ship products, food, books, cookware, pet products, wellness products, whatever it is that you're selling, if it's a tangible, to the media. So other than that, once we get to know each other, what do I need? I need an overview on your business. I need your biography, your headshot, product shots of your product, a copy of your book maybe, or that product so I can use it. And then I get started and I pitch and I place. And what does that mean? What is pitch and place? You want me to tell you that one?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Place.
I pitch the media. I joke that I'm a PI in PR because I'm investigating media opportunities and I am pitching my clients. My job is to bring the horse to water and then to get that horse to drink, meaning your story, your interview, your review. And that's what I do all day long. There are many aspects of public relations. I stay in my lane. I pitch and I place. Other people do in-depth strategy documents and spend months doing in-depth strategy documents. Public relations and press coverage can't be a guarantee. So by the time you write a strategy document, the next day, it's outdated. Media outlets come and go. People working for media outlets come and go. Reporters move. Reporters change careers. Magazines fold. New podcasts come into being. So every day is a new day. And so I'm always researching and finding new ways to get my clients covered in the press. And I think that's really important when you have that first meeting is let's get to know each other. Let's learn your story. Where's the meat? What's the excitement of that story? What's the story we want to tell?
Yeah.
What are we willing to give away? You have a book coming out. What kind of snippets can we give so that people will be interested in the book? Or if you're a health coach, what are some top tips that you might have for whatever time of season or year it is? So we come up with angles and we add new angles as we go along.
So what you're saying is the public relations aspect would complement someone's marketing plan. And so by doing paid advertisement alone, they may be promoting the sale of a product, but perhaps they're not as intentional with brand awareness and also being known or reaching a wider audience, right? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Exactly. And it's really a combination of both wider audience and targeted audience. Because here's an interesting story. A number of years ago, I was representing a consumer product. And I had this consumer product reviewed on Huffington Post. Okay, Huffington Post at the time had a unique visitors per month of 1.5 million. That number has grown since. Then I had a blog that had 950 viewers per month.
Wow.
Okay, they both did the same review on the same product. The client sold many units through that blog click-through than they did from the Huffington Post, because the blog had a targeted audience.
Yeah.
And this particular, I believe it was a toy product, and it was targeted, the blog was targeted to moms. The Huffington Post has a really wide audience. So your perception and your reality are two different things, because you think, oh, if I'm featured on the Today Show, I'll sell 1 million units. Yet you might be featured on a local show in Austin, Texas, and you might sell more units. So it's all depends on your target audiences
Almost
and
like
reaching.
almost like a shotgun versus rifle approach, so to speak, right?
Interesting analogy, but yes, it's, you just don't know. I mean, I've gotten clients because I've spoken or been a guest on a podcast, or there's been an article that quoted me. And the same for many of my clients. It's getting the word out there so that your target audiences can reach you. And I had someone call me a few weeks ago and said, Andrea, write me an article and put it in the Wall Street Journal. Well, that's not the way it works. The Wall Street Journal has reputable journalists who write the articles. You can place an ad in the Wall Street Journal. That'll cost you a pretty penny.
Yeah.
But this person, their business is 1 year old. They don't trade on the stock exchange. No one knows them. They have no engagement on their social media. And so it's great that you think you belong in the Wall Street Journal, but let's take some baby steps. Let's go back and let's start getting awareness so that you can grow your followers. Have enough content that you can put on your social media pages because you're interviewed in XYZ. And then one day, should you grow to that size, we will get the Wall Street Journal interested in your story. But don't get so fixated on one thing. Get fixated on reaching wide targeted audiences in different categories with different media, with different press.
That makes sense, right? And also for people who have a niche, is kind of identifying where their niche or their target audience congregates, right? What is it that they read, etc. And I guess that's kind of like the PI work that you do, right?
Exactly. I mean, that's the backbone of Andrea Pass Public Relations. Finding and uncovering new media outlets that'll benefit a client, and whether that client is an author. I'm working with a young man. He's in high school. He's autistic, and he wrote a young adult novel, not about autism, but actually about homelessness. And the press that I am securing for him is such a wide range of press, from magazines that are glossy magazines to some TV to interesting podcasts that aren't all about autism, but about living out your dreams. And so he has increased his name awareness. He just got accepted to college, which he'll be going to next year.
Wonderful.
And the goal will be to keep his name out there so that we can grow him to be an influencer for brands that he engages with now. It's a process, and you can't expect it to happen overnight, but public relations should happen now.
Yeah. Talk a little bit more about that process. People could have the false expectation of, hey, I call Andrea and tomorrow I'm going to be everywhere at every front page. I believe that perhaps the brands that have a leave a print are the ones that it took time to build them up, right? Versus something that overnight was popular and then tomorrow is gone. Can you talk a little bit about that process?
I mean, the world isn't always going to be make my video viral, because you can't plan a viral video. And it's about starting a process. So the process is we begin getting the word out. Any public relations person who tells you, I've got to write a media kit and send out press releases, are living in the 1980s. Press releases are not used anymore. Press release wire services increase your SEO for an hour, and that's it. So individual pitching to the press is the way to go to secure those interviews or product reviews or book reviews or quotes or what have you. So the way that I start the process is making sure I have all that information, the background information, the photos, the bios, the tips, what have you. But interviews that happen today may not run until 3 weeks from now or 3 months from now. So just because you do an interview today doesn't mean it's going to appear today.
Mm-hmm.
But the most important thing I say to anyone working with Andrea Pass Public Relations is this content is important content. So when that interview appears, whether it's, online, in a magazine, on TV, in a podcast, what have you, run it on your social media as well, but tag the media outlet. Make sure you're following that media outlet because, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. That's what everyone's looking for. They're looking for engagement. So you run that today when the article appears, and then run it again in 6 weeks, and again in 3 months, and 6 months, and 9 months, because content is king and queen, and everyone wants content. But just because I read an article today doesn't mean that you won't read that same article in 3 weeks or in 3 months. And if the information is evergreen, not targeted to a specific date or time of the year, then go ahead, use it over and over again, because the press that you get lives on for a lifetime. And so use it. I have a client from a few years ago who had written a book, and I periodically write to him and I say, please reuse the press I got you a few years ago. It's still relevant because the book is still out there. He was only able to afford a 6-month public relations contract, but it doesn't mean that I don't think about him and remind him that all the press we got in that 6-month period is still relevant about his book. And there are people out there who had never heard of his book. And it doesn't matter what date the book was published. The information, the content is something that is always open to new audiences. So that's really important.
Andrea, I have a totally different question for you. Not so much related to the services that you offer, more related about you as the owner and operator of your business. What would you say are perhaps the area of your business where you feel that you excel? And meaning the stuff that is done behind the scenes that no one sees.
My mantra has always been relationships matter. And I think that I excel at relationships. And one of the things about relationships is that clients and connections come back to me years and years later. I had represented a university for years. This was going back maybe 10 years ago or more. They reached out to me a few weeks ago because they didn't reach out to the PR firm I was at the time. They reached out to me because I got the job done. And I think that's the thing. I have a relationship and I get the job done. I set expectations and I'm honest about the expectations. So you may not be featured on the Today Show today, but we're going to get your name well known so that in months from now, we can pitch that story and it'll be relevant to the Today Show because they know you.
Yeah.
So I think behind the scenes, I'm a great communicator and connector and relationship builder. So whether that's with previous clients, current clients, media contacts, new people I meet in networking, I think behind the scenes, it's that aspect of business that I excel at. And I think that's why Andrea Pass Public Relations has had steady client bases and steady results since I started the company quite a number of years ago.
Folks, I hope you're listening. Relationships is key. It's important. I heard someone say once, um, they were asking for a referral, and he said to that person, "I don't do referrals. I make introductions." And I said, "Wait, I don't get it. What do you mean?" It's like, referral is very business-like. I just want to meet people, and I introduce people so they meet each other and they forge a relationship. And it made a lot of sense. So I think that is huge. So for those of you folks who are listening to this, try to build relationships, help make connections, and make new connections, and also keep up with those relationships. Keep on communication.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
if I could interject,
Sure.
Paul, don't sell. Don't sell. I've met a lot of interesting people through networking events, through introductions, but when I get on a call and someone's selling, shoving this at me, and whoa, yeah, put the brakes on. Let's get to know one another. Let's see if there's a synergy. Let's see who we know in common. And one example is a number of months ago, someone had introduced me to a gentleman from Florida who's a great connector. And I had had a call with some friends the night before, and my background was a picture I had taken at Yankee Stadium. So yes, full disclosure, I am a Yankee fan. And I get on this call and I hadn't changed my Zoom background yet. And the person from Florida says, "Is that Yankee Stadium?" To which, of course, I reply, yes. He was a diehard Yankee fan. And so there went our business conversation. We spent the entire call discussing the Yankees, what was going on at that time with the Yankees, this and that. Well, to this day, he keeps referring people to me and introducing people to me. And he starts by saying, "Andrea is a diehard Yankee fan." And that's important. I had a new business call yesterday, and I mentioned that I'm from Fair Lawn, New Jersey. And the person said, "Wait, isn't the Kosher Nosh Deli near you?" And that's located in Glen Rock, New Jersey. If you're looking for great deli, the Kosher Nosh Deli in Glen Rock, New Jersey, shout out. They are not a client. But we ended up having this whole conversation about where you can get great deli in North Jersey. So get to know people, because if you have that connection with people, then you'll talk about business. And there's enough time for us all to do business. And I always say that I approach things as a life-work balance. I put life before work. Mm-hmm. And I love what I do, but it doesn't mean that I don't do things with my family or my friends or my volunteerism or what have you. So I think that take the time to get to know somebody, and then you'll be able to make great introductions for one another in business.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that. Andrea, our time has come to a close. I want to thank you very much for accepting the invitation to be a guest in the podcast. Folks, we are going to be putting all of Andrea's contact information as part of the description and the different media outlets. But Andrea, will you please give them your website or email address so they have that information?
Yes, that would be great, Paul. Thank you so much for having me on New Jersey Business Podcast. I am Andrea Pass Public Relations. You can find me at AndreaPassPR.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Andrea Pass. I'm on Facebook, Andrea Pass Public Relations. And you can email me at AndreaPassPR.com. But most importantly, I invite your audience to schedule a one-on-one meeting with me. If you visit AndreaPassPR.com, go on my appointments tab, let's schedule a half-hour consultation so I can understand your needs. And I hope that we can work together in the near future.
Yes, thank you so much. Folks, do not think that your business is too small for this, or this is something that you need in the future. This is something that you need now. Thank you, Andrea. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show, go to NewJerseyBusinessPodcast.com. That's NewJerseyBusinessPodcast.com. We can't wait to hear from you and your business. You can also visit our website to learn about sponsorship opportunities and how to qualify for a complimentary gift. Thanks again for listening to the New Jersey Business Podcast.